Ed Stafford is the best survivor, but not everyone is ready for that information. Hello, I'm MANIFACO. Welcome to our segment here on MANIFACO Answers, where we talk a bit about some topics. Some time ago, I talked about Naked and Afraid. It's a pretty common show that we usually watch on those Discovery channels. Some people watch it on YouTube or elsewhere online, right? Anyway, it's a well-known show. But have you ever heard of Ed Stafford? Have you ever binged several survival series? You must have heard of Ed Stafford and you must have watched at least one episode of his. Ed Stafford is that bald guy who usually gets naked in places, but he stays for less time, okay? But of course, there are other Ed Stafford series too. But why do I say that Ed Stafford is the best survivor? Well, let's compare him with some others, but remember, I'm not here to attack any of these survival shows. I really enjoy watching them actually. I must have watched pretty much all of them that I can remember: Survivor Man, Naked and Afraid, Dual Survival, Bear Grylls, Ed Stafford, and more that I remember now, but I've really seen a lot. And Ed Stafford is the one who stands out among all of them, at least in my opinion. For example, there's a series with Ed Stafford where he spends 60 days on an island. But there's a detail. He spends the 60 days alone and without any tools. For example, Naked and Afraid. There's the 40-day challenge, which is the peak. There were even 2 participants who did a 60-day challenge. But for that, they got a lot of help, like several tools, not to mention they were always in groups. A lot of people give up, a lot of people don't do well, and most of the time they spend a long time without eating anything. In Ed Stafford's 60-day challenge, he brought nothing and stayed alone on the island, which was already tough. Because you're deprived of talking to people, you have no interaction at all. And that's almost psychologically impossible. Very few people can go so long without talking to anyone, without any human contact, and he managed to do it. And that's not the only detail that brings him to our list of the best survival shows. Ed Stafford stayed there during this time and rarely went a day without eating. This was on a deserted island with almost no water, except for one spot where a small amount dripped. But why is he different from the others? Why does he manage to do well in so many situations? In many episodes, not just this one, Ed Stafford performs very well. He always manages to find food and gets done what needs to be done. And a very important detail, he manages to do all this even while filming himself. Because usually survival shows have a crew behind the scenes filming, and that's often when people say the crew interferes in the process. To keep the episode interesting, this often happens in Naked and Afraid. By the end of the episode, people are in really bad shape, really tired. And that's when they find food, right on the eve of the rescue, so they have the strength to make the final journey. So a lot of people say that's manipulated, because the production goes there and puts an animal. I don't know, maybe yes, maybe no. But for Ed Stafford, that's impossible since he's always alone and never sees anyone, not even the production team. Sometimes he has to change the camera batteries. He has a separate place where the production team goes and puts the batteries. Then the team goes back home and he goes there to get the batteries. He doesn't have any contact with anyone, so he has to film everything himself, and I know very well that this takes a lot of time. He sets the camera here, walks away, then has to go back to get the camera. Change the angle, and you always have to keep thinking about how to film what's the best angle so you can get good shots. He's always doing that, and it takes up a lot of time. But despite all that, he still always does really well in the episodes. He sets traps. Sometimes he fishes really well. He does a lot of different things. Why does this happen to him but not others? The secret I've noticed in all his episodes is in the psychological aspect. That's really important. Most people who die in survival situations don't even die from hunger or thirst. It's more because they just give up, because they realize they won't make it and put that idea in their head. But a positive mindset can make all the difference. Of course not. If you think like, oh, I want an animal to appear right in front of me so I can hunt it, that's not how it works. But if you have a positive mindset, you're always saying, I need to, I will be able to do better. And that, in a survival situation, gives you the energy to keep going. Even if you've hunted 10 times and found nothing, you still have the energy to keep going. An unmotivated person lacks that and often gives up after their first mistake. Another very important detail is that besides spending a lot of time filming, he always uses a lot of energy carrying all the filming equipment. Just imagine him carrying that huge backpack. Anyone who's seen it knows he always has a gigantic backpack with 2 big professional cameras, with batteries, memory cards, plus several GoPros. And there's a satellite phone and a bunch of other stuff so he can communicate with the production team. He carries all of that, but for him it's not useful at all because he can't use any of that for survival. He only carries it so he can film and show us. That takes up a lot of energy. There was an episode, for example, where he went through a path that had a lot of mud. And it's in that challenge that he has to walk and go really far to reach a goal. And it was terrible for him to carry that amount of equipment, and I imagine it really must be. Because when we go for a hike with a backpack full of equipment, with food, water, those things, it's already hard. Imagine carrying things you won't even use. So he makes all this effort to film, and still he does well without even having a knife. Obviously his success isn't just about the mental part, but also about his skills. He has already demonstrated several skills that we rarely see in regular survival shows, which always end up repeating the same ones. It even seems like the participants only know what they've seen on television. But anyway, let's not get into details. If you want me to talk about some more survival shows, I've already watched several, almost all of them actually. Comment below which show you want me to discuss. Also, check out the episode where I discussed Naked and Afraid. I'll link it here. I'm MANIFACO. Please like the video. See you in the next video. I'm out.